marriage, you will always have this thought, even on the last wedding day, what if is the wrong.
So if you watch the full video of what he's saying, he is basically talking about this fear that many of us often feel before we get married. This fear of making the wrong choice, wanting to be so assured in our choice, in the person that we've picked. And in essence, what he's saying is that you can't be 100% assured in the person or in your choice, but what you can be assured in is in God. And he speaks about how marriage is a decision of faith. And I love what he's saying, and it just kind of made me think about one of the many reasons as to why I don't really subscribe to the notion of the one, or having the one, or this person who is fashioned for you, or this person that God has kept aside for you, because there is no perfect person, and there is no one person that you can choose that will guarantee you a smooth, peaceful, amazing marriage. And it kind of makes me think about this desire that many of us have of having this sort of perfect person and perfect situation before we get married, and looking for perfection even before we start the journey, and how much of sort of like getting to that, we can't obtain perfection, but getting to that destination that marriage does. Like, it is marriage that brings about the patience that you have with each other. It is marriage that brings about the understanding that you're desiring to have before you get married. Not to say that things shouldn't be blissful and sweet and cool before you get married, but it's just to say that a lot of the perfection that we're looking for before we get married is found, for the lack of a better word of perfection, in marriage. And I really wanted to emphasize what he said about marriage being a decision of faith. We are not privy to the future. We're not privy to how our partner, our husband, our wife, our spouse will be like after we say I will. We don't know what they'll be like when they go through the loss of a parent. We don't know what they'll be like if they lose their job. We don't know like what our marriage will be like if we experience a miscarriage. I was listening to a podcast, and a woman essentially speaks about how her marriage broke down after she had a miscarriage and after they lost their child, and how they're working to build it back up. But all of these things you can't account for, you can't think for in the present, and we are not privy to that sort of thing. So it just kind of made me think about how it is really important for us as Christians to base our decision around the spouse on what the Bible sort of speaks about, on what a Christian should look like, on what a Christian should think about when it comes to marriage. You know, marriage being a place in which a wife submits and a husband loves the wife like Christ loved the church. This sort of mindset is what we should be looking for. And then on top of that, we've got more to build on, such as our values, our morals, our interests, our personality. And in that, I feel like we can be able to make I don't want to say like a better decision, but we can get to a place where we can make a decision without the stress and anxiety. The anxiety that you experience in trying to make a God-glorifying decision, or just the right decision and looking for the one for you, can be so like crippling. And when you sort of boil it down to, okay, well, God has given me the blueprint in his word, in that I should look for someone in the faith. First Corinthians talks about it. And on top of that, he's given me free will to also make this choice. I feel like you feel more of a sense of peace. And so when he's talking about this fear of sort of like finding the wrong one and picking the wrong one, and what if he leaves me, and what if this happens, you don't know. You have no idea what that's going to look like, and you can't guarantee that it won't be like that, or that it will be like that. But what we can do is make a decision based on what the word has set out for us in prayer, with community, speaking to this person, X, Y, Z, personality, looking how it marries up, our interests and stuff like that. But then ultimately having faith in God that he will keep your marriage, sustain your marriage, and lead you guys down the right path. So I just wanted to share that, because I often like talk to a lot of friends and people about that, and just, yeah, this notion of the one can really cripple you. And if you haven't read, or if you have read Gary Chapman's book on Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married, it speaks a little, I haven't read it in a long time, but it kind of speaks a little bit on that, in that he married someone, he was so happy, blah, blah, blah. Then he got married, he's like, is this a person that God has called for me, da, da, da. And then he realized that marriage takes work, it takes exercise, a lot of stuff to get to that place where you're serving each other in the way that you both want to be served, and the way that glorifies God. But anyway, That's my 2 pence.